What's up guys, welcome to another episode of Poor Man Mods. Today this is going to be a really quick and easy episode. We're going to show you how to either change out your wheel studs or install longer wheel studs. Now if you're like me, you like big studs way better than small studs. Bigger is always better. These studs are just so much more appealing and they're longer. And if you have wheel spacers like here, they give you more threads to get your nuts on, because with the short studs, you don't get enough threads on your nuts. So we're extending the studs, and I'm going to show you how to do it. It's pretty simple. It's probably not the preferred way to do it, but the way I did it works for me. So why don't we get to all of this studdy action and see what it's all about. Okay, so the actual install and removal of the studs is probably universal for most vehicles, but for the Supra, a 1988 Supra, I swear when they made this car, they intended for everything to be in the way of everything. Like seriously, every single thing I do to this car, something is in the way. Like when I did the steering angle on this car, when I increased the steering angle, I had to change the passenger side inner tie rod. To change that inner tie rod, you had to remove all of the steering rack brackets and basically remove the rack. And I had to remove the oil return line for the oil drain that goes into the engine block, because that was over one of the bolts. And I almost had to remove a radiator hose. And with this, a simple change of studs just is either not possible or not easy with this car. As you can see, there's the shield here and then the dust shield. And to properly remove the studs, you probably have to disassemble the entire hub. But this is Poor Man Mods, and we're cheap, and if we're not cheap, we're lazy, or we're damn sure are both cheap and freaking lazy. So what I did, this ring right here is actually what spins the ABS sensor. I took my angle grinder and cut a slit in it, and it popped right off. And it freed up a whole lot of room back here. But that's not finished yet. You still cannot remove these studs by just removing that. Right here, you have to cut a gap in the dust shield in order to get the stud out and install it back in. I don't know of any other way to do this other than maybe take the entire hub apart. I don't know how to do that, and I don't want to do that. Cutting this was simple, but it was just ridiculous. Like, nothing on this car is ever easy. So that being said, we finally have enough room over here to where we can get the stud out and put a new stud in. So what I'm about to do is probably not the preferred method, but it works well for me. You might not need to do this, but I'm going to spray some lubricant on it, WD-40, PB Blaster, whatever, and just let it soak for a little bit just to get it lubed up, just to make it as easy as possible. And now we're going to hit it with a hammer a couple times and have it come out. The preferred method for this is probably, if you could take everything off, to have a press this out and press the new one in. But we're Poor Man Mods, we don't have a press, and we're lazy, and we don't want to take this all apart, so we're going to hammer it out and draw it in. And I tell you, this is probably one of the sexiest Poor Man Mod episodes we ever did, because right now, I'm about to whack some studs. Now, if whacking studs doesn't sound hot to you, I don't know what's wrong with you, but something's wrong with you. So, just gonna give it some whacks. You don't even need to hit it that hard. Just a couple light whacks to get it out. And here's the old shorty stud, and now we're gonna install the new long stud. So I believe this is a 2-inch or a 2 1/4 inch long stud. The factory one is about 1 inch long. You can see there's a substantial difference, and it's gonna give us a lot more threads when we put our wheel spacers on. So what we're gonna do there's a couple different ways you could go about doing this, but this is the way that I'm doing it. Take the stud, put it through, and you can use a series of nuts or washers to do this. What I actually have that works pretty well, I believe this is a distributor gear. Put this over it, and another nut. You want something that's not going to thread onto it. You want it to be slightly bigger so it does not thread on it. And then you take a lug nut and twist it on. Now what this is going to do, since these are not threaded onto the stud here, it's sticking out about 1/4 of an inch in the back. When you tighten this, it's going to pull the stud through and it will eventually seat on the back of the hub. Now you could do this with a breaker bar or a ratchet, but you might have to rig up a way to keep this still. What I'm going to use is my electric impact. You could probably use an air impact. You could probably use a ratchet if you really wanted to, but you just have to find a way to keep this still. Using an impact, it makes it a lot easier, and I'm going to show you what all we have to do here. I also sprayed this with lubricant once again, just to make install a little bit easier. Alright, now assuming everything goes to plan, this should draw in and successfully seat on the back of the hub. Yep. Now this stud is completely seated. Now we just have to do it 4 more times. Now unfortunately it is possible if you don't get the right kind of stud, if you don't get one that's hard enough, you always have to get the hardest kind of stud. But if you don't get one that's hard enough, or if you get a crappy one, or if you tighten this too much, it is possible to strip the threads. Mark, who's appeared on our show with his 66 Mustang, he tried to do this on his Mustang, on the 66, and he said that whenever he would do this, they were so tight that he was stripping the threads off, so he actually had to remove the hubs and take them to a shop and get them pressed in. So be careful for that. If you do buy this, if you do decide to upgrade these studs, it might be worthwhile to get some extra ones. I actually purchased 25, so I have 5 extra just in case that happened. So they're only a couple dollars, so it might be worth the investment. Alright, so that's how you install the wheel studs, or change out wheel studs, or put in extended wheel studs, whatever. Now I can safely install these wheel spacers and get even more steering angle. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Poor Man Mods. Hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.